Hi there. Today more about the state of spiritual awakening. Some answers to the questions you left in the comments under the previous video. So here I'm talking about the enlightened or spiritually awakened experience of life, experience of self. Not something that we experience once in a blue moon, but something that is a state, a constant experience from hour to hour, from day to day, that is fundamentally transformed from what it was before we were spiritually awakened, or before we actually entered the process of enlightenment. So first I'm going to answer a couple of questions that are actually about this experience of enlightened experience of life and self, and being pulled closer and closer to the original being, to the pure existence. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about the last question, which is about how should one approach the process of enlightenment if a person who is not particularly mentally or spiritually stable, in a high enough vibration, or in contact with his or her inner self, he's not particularly consistent and is completely entangled or enmeshed in mental concepts. How should such a person approach the desire, or maybe even a want, a wish to experience existence directly from the source itself? Anyway, let's start with the first couple of questions about enlightened experience. Let's say enlightened experience of self. How does an enlightened person experience themselves when there is no self? It's a very interesting question. There is no continuity. There is this body that obviously is perceived and that exists in some sort of on a human level of existence, that does its things, that goes its own way, that sort of develops to a certain peak, and then it sort of deteriorates, and so on and so on. And there are mental images of that body, whatever that body was doing in the past, and also mental images sometimes of what that body is going to do in the future, in this life cycle. But there is no continuity, there is no self as such. So everything is completely open and possible. This body can do anything in the next half an hour. It is not sort of defined by anything that happened in the past. Everything is completely open. Because when you are in a process of enlightenment, and when yourself is sort of not existent anymore, and when there is no continuity, when there is no hanging on to a complex of sort of thoughts or mental concepts about oneself, then everything is completely open. And you're not making any plans, you're part of the stream. Whatever happens, happens. You rely totally on the stream, or on being one with the pure existence, with the original source, on its being the way it is. Balanced, peaceful, benevolent. And you're part of that, completely part of that. So there is no individual will, there is no individual self. There are mental images that you can access at any time, so you're not getting embarrassed when somebody asks you about this particular human form. What did that particular human form did, 10 years ago, and so on and so on. You can find these mental images, but there is no content. There is no emotional or any other involvement. There is just a mental image. And the standing is completely clear. What this particular human form did, or why they did it, and so on. There is complete, crystal clear understanding about all that, but there is absolutely no content. There is absolutely no emotional involvement with this particular human form. This particular human form does what it does, and it's going to do what it's going to do. And that's how it is. And anything could happen at any time, but you're completely trusting the stream, the part of pure existence which you are part of, that whatever happens is going to be completely in sync with the source, with the pure existence, with the benevolence, with the peace, balance, and complete clarity. So you cannot possibly do anything that would be against that. Absolutely not. And so you go. No individual, no person. There is this body. This sort of presents something, some sort of a content, but you're not bound to it at all. And when you go deeper, a little bit deeper and deeper, when you sort of go into the levels where you're not sort of dealing with the thoughts whatsoever, not even noticing the thoughts, then you sort of glimpse some sort of mental images, future mental images of this particular human form in this life cycle. As well, you can glimpse some past forms from some previous life cycles, mental images. Everything is clear, but there is no content, but there are mental images. And you have a complete understanding about these mental images. It's complete freedom. Nothing is defined. And of course, because there is no emotional content and no actually mental involvement, you're not ever worried about anything. You're part of the stream and you go with it, wherever the stream takes you. And anything is possible, but just what is in sync with the stream itself, with the pure existence itself. Pure existence as the source. You know, at a certain level of everyday existence, you're still noticing the thoughts, and thoughts are passing through, so we have completely understanding of everything that is going on around you. There is complete clarity about all that. Thoughts are just passing through. They're not hung on to. They're not sort of excited on. But beyond that level, when you get absorbed a little bit more, closer to the pure existence itself, then there are no more thoughts. But there is just this sort of a vibration is getting high and high. It actually is felt as you are plugged in. Like before you were absolutely unplugged, but now you're plugged in. You can feel this sort of heightened vibration, and the light is getting stronger and stronger the more and more you get absorbed. And it's absolutely uncomparable with anything you can possibly experience on an everyday level for this sort of a human experience that we call life, when you're not connecting to the source, when you're not connected directly to the pure existence, original being. There is no comparison whatsoever. It's, as I say, it's like you're all of a sudden plugged in. Your vibration gets so much higher, it's sort of undescribable. And the light with it, brighter and brighter. And the clarity about everything. You cannot miss it. Its experience is so different that it's just really, you cannot absolutely mistake one for another. It is such a huge difference. And deeper you go, more and more you get absorbed, the higher the vibrations, brighter the light. And it's all felt through the heart. It all connects through the heart. The heart sort of expands, opens up completely, and is accepting of absolutely everything that comes its way. It feels like it's full to the brim, but it can go on and on and on, open and open more, completely open. Open heart, accepting heart. Everything is felt through the heart. Absolute peace and bliss. It is bliss because it is such a high vibration, such a beautiful light. And absolutely no body, nothing to be limited by, nothing at all. And as I said, it's completely different than what you experience on a everyday basis through this so-called human experience of life, which is just mentally processed experience of life. Experience of existence that is processed completely through mental concepts, through the thoughts, and nothing else. And the vibration is so low that it's almost non-existent. And because people are spending more and more time just sort of engaged completely with the thoughts, the vibration is actually lower and lower. And now I'm coming to the last question. If a person who is already on such a very low, almost non-existent vibration and so completely entangled inside the thoughts, anyway, has some sort of a desire, want, or maybe even is just curious about what would it look like to connect to existence directly without mental processing, what would it feel like? What would that be like? What would be the experience of life? How are these people supposed to practice to get closer to direct experience of life? They could be even very inconsistent and so on and so on and so on. They might not even have this huge desire, which is important, that we do desire, that we do want to know, that we do want to experience existence directly, not from mental processing. But let's say these people don't have any of that, but still maybe curiosity, or maybe they've stumbled upon some people who talk about direct experience and so on, and they would want a piece of it themselves. What are they supposed to do? What sort of practice should they embark on? So definitely, what they should do is just find the breath. It's very important that they turn inside, at least momentarily, find the breath, whatever it is, whichever way it goes, and just follow that breath with the mantra. I recommend the mantra Buddha, Bud on in-breath, Tao on out-breath, and just go with that. And if it takes a minute or two and then they get lost in thoughts and then they try and come back and then they let it go, and then again, maybe a few hours later or next day, they do it again and again and again and again. They have to turn inside at some point, and following the breath is the best way to do it, the easiest way to do it. You pair it with the mantra because you just can stay with it for a bit longer before you get completely lost again inside the thoughts, because then you have to come back. But just do that. Find the breath. Turn in and find the breath. And whichever way the breath is, short or deep or whichever way it is, just follow it. It's not you directing the breath. You're just following the natural rhythm of the breath. In-breath, out-breath, and you pair this with mantra, Buddha, Bud on in-breath, Tao on out-breath, and just you go on like that. Whenever you have a few minutes, you do it. Before you go to sleep, before you fall asleep, when you're in bed, you do it for a couple of minutes. When you watch TV and it's something that's not really interesting, you do it. When you're in front of some screen, computer screen or any other screen, and you just lose your sort of interest for a while, you do it. When you're going for a walk, you do it. And try and spend some time in environments that are a little bit high on vibration, because that will help you. Nature, of course, nature. Just nature. Unprocessed nature. If you can't find anything, at least find a tree. And then sort of do it. So just do it whenever you can. You don't need to find any sort of regular practice, but do it. Do it daily. And see where it takes you. You will start turning inwards a little bit more. You will start sort of spending at least a little bit of time away from being caught up in mental processing and thoughts, and that can take you a bit closer. And that might spark your interest even a little bit more and sort of spark some sort of desire inside you to actually practice more regularly, practice more fervently, practice with the more determination, because it is needed. For some sort of a regular, consistent practice, and for a thing like, experience existence directly, that might take a long, long time to get there. You need to have this really fervent wish, desire, determination to just find out, whatever the cost, to find out what it's like to experience existence directly, what it's like to go beyond mental processing, what it's like to not be limited to some sort of particular human form, and so on and so on. It's needed, because then we practice no thinking, getting away from thoughts anyway, so it's not really important. But this determination, this big desire, this sort of almost devotion to original being, to pure existence, to unprocessed existence has to exist, and it has to be really, really strong. So for people in which this is not strong, which it does not exist in on such a high level, they just have to turn in and follow the breath here and there and see where it takes them. Develop maybe some sort of a more expressed desire or expressed wish or want, or much more pronounced wanting to know what it's like, where we come from, what is the source of all this, what is the nature of existence, and so on, so on, and so on. Anyway, I've been going on for too long for today. Thank you for your questions and suggestions, and I will see you next time, next Friday, 6:30. Thank you. Bye-bye.